Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a podcast from Birthday Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes, and for episode 47, we welcome back old friends with an interview featuring two-thirds of the mighty Alpha Male Tea Party, Greg Chapman and Tom Peters. We first interviewed Alpha Male Tea Party in 2013, not long after the creation of Birthday Cake for Breakfast. Fresh-faced and stuffed into a hallway during another band's soundcheck for our first interaction, we'd go on to interview the trio a number of times over the years, yucking it up whenever we caught them for a chat. In October 2025, Alpha Male Tea Party released their latest album, Reptilian Brain, via Big Scary Monsters, the first to feature vocals in the main from this largely instrumental outfit. To celebrate its release, we once again had the chance to interview Alpha Male Tea Party, this time over Zoom from the comfort of our own homes rather than in a field after a skinful. We spoke of the new record, being featured in Lads Mags, gardening, and their bond as a unit. If you like the episode, let us know. Follow us on your favourite streaming platform, follow Birthday Cake for Breakfast on the socials, give us a rating, drop us a comment, do the things the kids do these days, etc. Right, on to Alpha Male Tea Party. Enjoy! But what I was going to say was, as Ben isn't here, feel free to air all your dirty laundry. But now we've lost Greg as well, so feel free to air any. Yeah, with this sort of thing, we always like to start things off just like finding out where you're up to and how we find you at the minute. Obviously, your post shower, post gardening, digging holes, that didn't sound suspect at all.
Safe's not in the
But
house either, so
oh, really? So you've just been doing it completely like rear window type?
yeah.
Just been digging holes in the garden. Nice Monday
Yes.
afternoon activity.
Yeah, very nice actually. Yeah. Take
I
advantage of the
was,
nice weather.
yeah, well, the last of it. I was interested to hear from you all, and at this rate, it may just be yourself, but when you are this close to a record coming out, and
Hmm.
it is literally because by the time this comes out, as in the podcast, the record will already be out. How is it, having it literally be, what is it, a week and a half away? That must be such a unusual
It
feeling.
it is. It's a bit weird at the moment. Like it's a strange one. Like I have to be. I want to try and be optimistic, but like it's a difficult moment to be in. Like especially. I was kind of having a sort of shower rant about this in my own head, especially when I was like digging the holes earlier about how like it's actually quite challenging. It's definitely more challenging now to be a band than it was even 5 years ago. Like I've noticed things are different now than they were when we released Infinity Stair 5 years ago. And like the emphasis on streaming figures and metrics and things like that and how you can see all of that information so blatantly and so clearly, sort of almost like it validates what you're doing or doesn't in sort of cold numbers in front of you. And the music industry generally is unhealthily obsessed with that as well. So I'm really excited for this album to come out, but I think I have also personally got some slightly unrealistic expectations of what it's going to do for us, which I always do. So releasing an album, it's actually quite stressful. Like it's exciting for a bit, but the worst bit is after like a week, all of that excitement starts to kind of ripple over into like a sort of clamoring anxiety where you're going, why aren't people talking about our record anymore? Or like, why isn't more stuff happening? Why is not? So I want to try my best not to get stuck in that cycle, but it is quite difficult sometimes. Here's Greg. He'll say something optimistic and positive about the release of our album coming up very soon.
Oh, that's just totally throw me the old my internet issue. So what was the question? Hello, everyone. God,
Hey, Greg.
what
Sorry,
a
sorry
nightmare.
to.
You know what? I almost nearly bailed there.
Oh, really? Well, you're
Oh,
sounding a lot
man.
better now.
Oh, man.
If it makes you feel any better, Greg, just said to Tom that, if it was someone else, I'd feel a bit hesitant about saying about internet issues, but I like you so much. I thought best to let you know.
No, nice one. No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
But I was
Is
just
it a bit
saying
of
to
a
Tom, oh, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, just saying to Tom,
sorry, mate. Sorry. This
no,
I
go
might
ahead.
have to. What's up, mate? What's up? Yeah, scissors. Okay, 1 minute.
But yeah, in that respect, it must be like interesting to have the record come out like you say, and then to be in a position where you go, oh, I can see exactly how many people have listened to this. That must be, because people don't read reviews always if it's about their music. And traditionally, that was always a way of finding out, what people were saying. Whereas
Mm,
this is cold, hard numbers, like you say.
yeah.
Are you, I'm guessing by what you've just said, you are the sort of person who takes that sort of thing at face value rather than just ignore it completely? Because it's kind of hard to ignore, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I personally could ignore it because, like, as Gregor will attest to, I get quite neurotic about these kind of things. Like, I just get a bit like antsy and agitated, and having, we've released like 3 singles, and like sort of like watching the figures changing, like seeing more people coming onto the Instagram page, and like like seeing all the figures on the Spotify fucking artist app and things like that. Like it's kind of a sort of weird dopamine drug thing where you're just constantly looking at it and just hoping that figure's going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's obviously not a sustainable way of living or existing or being. But then I've always been a bit weird about, even before the metric stuff, I was always weird about reviews as well. Like Greg and Ben constantly having to tell me that it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't. But like, do you remember, Greg, when we got reviewed in Kerrang magazine? Was it the EP like years
Mhm.
ago? So this was Real Allen Model Rail. I was staying in your old house, and I walked to a Tesco, which is at that point probably about, I don't know, about a mile and a half, 2 miles away, because I was desperate to get this copy of this magazine to see what the review was. And I got into the Tesco, I found it and I read it, and I just stood there in utter disappointment at reading this review that I'd like flogged it over to Tesco just to go and like be disappointed by someone that I don't know. And it's just like, oh, this isn't really worth the
Yeah,
mental energy.
yeah. I'm not sure.
You two have always
Correct.
been a lot better.
Well, I'm not sure the Kerrang audiences, well, the Kerrang reviewers are our audience. I don't know. Yeah, who knows?
Don't really know what our audience is these days, to be
No,
fair.
no, not at all. Yeah. Oh, was it Rock Sound? Which one was it?
Well, we're
What?
both. So it
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
so was it? Oh, I can't even remember. Like one of them, it was a really weird one because we got a feature in the copy of the magazine. So there was like this nice, like half, like quarter page, like feature about us. And then a few pages later, a review absolutely panning us for being boring. And it was a really confusing kind of like thing where it's like, okay, you're sort of supporting us, but then you're also like trashing us. Like there's no sort of like editorial connectivity going
no.
on about these things. And I know they change reviews as well, depending on like what the editor wants things to say and all of that kind of shit as well at that level. But whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Me neither.
I take one of you doesn't care and one of you definitely does. But, with that sort of, at least that's quite refreshing because I hate it when you get like a magazine has like, front page. I say a magazine, when was the last time you read one of them? But like, has got the front page is the band. And then the review is like 5 out of 5. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, come on, you're just saying that. So, it's kind of refreshing that they were arseholes about the music.
Yeah, I
The,
mean, I guess that's a way of looking at it.
yeah, 10 years on.
Yeah.
Thinking about like I don't know if you heard this part, Greg, but Tom was saying even putting the last record out was different to the way putting music out now is. So going back to even putting out Droids
Mhm.
and even putting out the first records, Tom, like pre-Ben, etc. How was it doing the process then and promoting things and getting the word out compared to now? Because the metrics are completely different. There isn't a rock sound. I don't think there's a Kerrang. So how do you approach things back then to now? How was that whole process?
I mean, we were quite heavily involved with like the whole like DIY circuits, really, weren't we? Like we were very self-sustained. We were on Alex's label for a little while as well, and they released droids for us, and we just did things. I mean, we still do things on a very small scale, but it was just kind of that level below, really, wasn't it? We were still quite, yeah, quite rootsy, really, if you can call it that.
It's funny though because on the one hand we were, but also Alex, so Superstar Destroyer Records, put quite a lot of money into PR and press back then.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah,
a large amount of the like records budget would be on trying to get physical press. So getting us in Rock Sound magazine and Kerrang, and also a double page spread in a front magazine,
oh God,
which
yeah.
was like nuts, really, when you think about it. And speaking of nuts, I think were we in nuts as well. There was a
Yeah, we
period
got
of time where we got funneled towards lads mags because our mate Cy Glacken, who was doing press for us, found that hilarious, and it was, but yeah. But now that's sort of changed a little bit because I think BSM now, I think the press stuff is more like in house really. So Josie's doing a lot of that. There isn't sort of talk about which PR company we're going to go with and stuff, and that sort of happened on Infinity Stair as well. Like, but Infinity Stair was kind of weird. Like the way that record came out was a bit strange because it was like we had the record, it was COVID, we couldn't tour it. We didn't want to just sit on it for a year for the sake of it. So we just effectively just released it
yeah,
without a huge amount of groundwork being done. So in a way that just sort of like flopped out a little bit. And I think a lot of bands had that during COVID, didn't they? I mean, like, because I think there were quite a few bands like that released records that just sort of didn't really land as well as they might have done because everyone was a little bit preoccupied with not getting horrible diseases and so
Trying not
on.
to
So
die.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it's like for you both, because I imagine if it came out in 2020, it was already, being worked on well before then. But going back, looking into stuff for the research for this, I couldn't even believe it was 2020. It seemed like it came out the week you played Satan's Hollow, which I think was only like 3 years ago. I can't even remember
20
when
yeah,
that was.
2021, yeah. That was well, that
Yeah.
was that was the release tour. So that was supposed to happen in what was it, April 2020 or something? No, it was supposed to happen Feb, I think it was in 2021. Then that got pushed back to like October because there was another lockdown. And that tour was strange vibes anyway, wasn't it, Greg?
yeah, yeah. I do remember there being some pretty shit gigs on it. I don't know why.
It was.
Any in particular, Greg?
Oh yeah, I'm going to keep that under my hat, I think.
You've got a habit of upsetting people by
Yeah,
No
yeah.
Dundee.
you know what
No, no.
I
You said it, not me.
I don't know, like it was a weird tour because like some of it was really good. We all got really ill on that tour as
Oh
well,
God,
and
yes.
to a point where it was
Oh,
like, have we all just got really brutal COVID? Because most of us were like, Greg was like
I
death
think
breathing at night, like
I think I had pneumonia.
it sounded like you fucking did.
Yeah, because we were testing, we were being very sensible. Like
Yeah.
obviously testing it was obviously just coming up negative, but yeah, it must have been pneumonia because
Mm.
yeah, it was
I
awful.
I remember going on stage in London, or like just so we played 229 in London, and my nose was just running, just constantly for like 2 3 hours before the gig, and I was just like, this is mental. It was just like wet,
Mm.
just
Mm.
coming out of me. And again, yeah, we tested loads. None of us were positive
No,
for
no.
COVID, but we got some kind of other mad something, and we're
Alien disease.
just spreading that around the country at the same time. Great fun. I don't think that was the actual question, was it? I can't even fucking remember what you asked us, and here we are.
I'm sure it was in there somewhere. You with that sort of thing, with like records, again, saying you put it out in 2020, again, it doesn't feel like that. But so that makes this new record 5 years on, and press releases love that sort of thing. And there's always like significant stories that come with time away. Alpha Male Tea Party, they haven't put out a record for 5 years because of X. Was there ever any thought of coming up with like a big story other than,
No.
children and stuff like that?
I mean, the weird the weird thing is that we've just not been as present as we usually have. I mean, we have been doing things in that 5 years to quite a large degree. There's the obvious thing with getting our gear nicked. that really kind of made us question why, why we're even doing it anymore. I know Tom had some feelings where, we had lost a lot of most of our gear, a lot of prized possessions that can't really be replaced with an insurance policy. And that probably put us back, 6 months or something. And then we kind of got back into a bit of a flow, kind of writing, getting this record into some early shape before we kind of had a bit more time away because my mum got sick and passed away. And during that time as well, I know Tom's dad wasn't well for a bit of time as well, so we
Mm.
had a bit more time off. And then between then and now, it kind of came round to the 10th anniversary of Droid, so we toured again. So it's not as if we've been in a complete, stasis of absolute nothingness. We've still been existing as a band, still working, still quite hard, but we've just been kind of under the blanket, so to speak.
Yeah. I think crucially it doesn't really feel like 5 years to us. Like, because I think to some bands, 5 years, that is a long time to not release a record. So I remember, do you remember when Three Chop Tigers released Silent Earthling? Everyone was like, "Oh, it's been ages since they released the record." And in my mind, like Infinity Stare wasn't 5 years ago. But if you count up all the things, yeah, that Greg said there, like all of that stuff is that's what's made it 5 years. It's not
Yeah,
that we've been like, oh, we're taking a break because we don't want to be a band or something. We've been constantly working, but we've
yeah,
just had a number of setbacks. I mean, you can take the first 2 years out of the equation anyway because of fucking COVID.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
really only been 3 years if you really if you think about it, because we don't do this full time. We'll never be able to do it full time. So
no,
we have to just make it work when we can. So it just takes time, and obviously we've gone through a bit of a shift and a change in what we've done with this record, and that's taken time as well in terms of the way that instrumentally the record was actually written, what, like a year and a half ago it was finished. But when did we go into the studio? May
it was,
24.
yeah, 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 end of May, start of June, yeah. I mean,
So
like the thing is with the writing process with this record, and within the time that we've been away, I think we must have started demoing bits of this record maybe 3 years ago, maybe a bit
mm,
longer, I reckon. And
yeah.
we can't, we must have, I don't know how many tracks we had kind of half written, but or even completed. But when we took a bit of time out, when we kind of came back to it, having a bit of time away from it made us kind of give us fresh ears. Because I remember us kind of revisiting a lot of the stuff that we'd already recorded and just kind of not ripping up and starting again, but really kind of gave us the time and the breathing space to like refine the tunes, because
mm,
there was a lot of stuff that really wasn't really presentable for the record,
mm.
and having a bit of time to kind of a bit of thinking space.
Yeah, I think that's totally on it as well, because I think we were all just mentally a bit scrambled as well, because we'd had so much going on in like personal lives and all of that kind of stuff that I'm not entirely sure whether our like judgment was where it should have been when we first started trying to write this record. Like we did go through a long period of time of like just sort of trying to string a load of ideas together that clearly sort of weren't really working as songs, and
Hmm.
that sort of thing really. So it just took a little while for it to actually start to feel like a record and like we were working towards something.
Yeah,
It's lucky, really, that you're not on that cycle that hit bands or does still hit bands at various points in their careers where you have to put out a record like every year to justify touring and stuff like that,
Mm,
yeah. I mean,
going
I
off what
think
you've
if
said.
I think if we would have been, doing this full time in, in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you do have that. I mean, it probably still is present in a lot of mainstream rock at the moment, but like, having record label pressures, I don't think we'd exist as a band anymore if we had to deal with that kind of stuff.
maybe not, no. I'd love to have more time. Like if someone turned around to us and said like, lads, do you want to like make your life about writing tunes in the studio and stuff? Like I'd go for it. Like
Yeah,
I absolutely
yeah.
would. But yeah, and to be honest, we actually we did try that, didn't we? I mean, we another reason why the album has come out later in the year is because we started talking to, I don't know whether I can talk about this, but fuck it, I'm going to. We started talking to Northern Music Company. One of our Bezzy mates, Mike Venart, like went absolutely bananas for the record when we sent it to him in sort of like late last year. We just kind of finished it all. We kind of rushed to get it all done, rushed to get the artwork finished, thinking that we were going to be releasing it like in time for a tour in April this year, which was actually all booked and all ready to go. And Andy Farrow from Northern Music Company took an interest in it and was basically trying effectively to get a major or semi-major deal for us to get it released. Like, so there was this mad period of time at the beginning of the year where we were like talking about like how are we going to make this work if we're going to be put in front of a major label, and can we do it? Can we make it happen? And
Mhm.
things like that. And it was honestly really stressful. Like I well, as Greg will remember very well, was a fucking miserable, horrible, shouty little oik in that period of time because I just didn't really know what was going to be happening with the
Not
record. And
None of us did. I mean, none of us even thought that it was going to come out at all. We were thinking. We basically said to BSM, we said, are you okay with us doing this? And they gave us their seal of approval, which was, incredible of them. But it got to the point where we're just like, well, we're gonna have to crawl back with our tail between our legs. Do you know what I mean? It was
mm,
like we just didn't know whether the record that we'd spent so much time painstakingly putting together, whether it'd ever see the light of day. And thankfully it did, thanks to BSM. But
yeah,
but it got to a point where we were just like, this ain't ever gonna get out.
it was difficult, wasn't it? And like we had a few knockbacks from labels which were actually just like really depressing and
There was
just
some
like
some
just
scathing comments, wasn't
oh,
there?
exactly. Just like one was like, oh, well, we wouldn't sign these because they're like over 30, as if that means we're like fucking done, useless. So
If you had a younger drummer, it would have taken the average age
it's
down a little bit.
it's
You know
your
what I
fault.
mean?
Yeah,
I'm
they're
I'm the
looking at
old guy.
the aggregate age of the three of us is what they were doing.
They just saw the state of my head, and it was like, fuck, we can't sign him.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all bad. We got some lovely feedback from some amazing labels as well, but they're just like we wouldn't know what to do with this. And actually, that's been one of our biggest problems as a band for like forever, is that we don't really fit into any particular box.
Mm.
I know every band thinks that about their music, but I do think it's true of us, especially on this record, which is like quite all over the shop, really. And something that we've actually worked really hard to do. Like we want to be able to cross genres. We want to make music that's like has different dimensions to it and isn't like comfortable sitting in a little pocket, which is why I think again all of this metric stuff, like metric stuff works. It likes neatly defined things, and that's not what we are, and it's not what we've sort of ever been really. And I think that's why we were a bit confusing to a lot of these labels, because they were like, well, we don't know. We don't know what we like it. Actually, quite a few labels said it's really interesting and we like it, but we wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And you're going, awesome, that's great. And then it just makes me go, well, what did a label think of fucking Radiohead in the 90s?
Mm.
Like, what? How does anyone be musically pioneering in a time where the industry is actually scared of music that seems to cross boundaries and things? Like, I'm not saying that we're fucking pioneers, by the way, just to be clear, but like,
Unbelievable.
it's this kind of idea that if some music is difficult to define, it somehow means that it's less marketable or something. And I just think music suffers for that, but that's just me being a knobhead, I suppose.
I think maybe it's a tone of voice thing because you just saying then, Tom, that it's music that you can't put into a box and such, and you said that in the way that you said it. But maybe if you'd put on an air of mystery and said it's music you can't put it in a box, maybe the labels would be like, give
Maybe,
these lads
maybe
money.
that's it. Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do. is we need to have some mysticism about us. That's something that we'll never ever be able to do. I don't think we'll ever be able to authentically appear pretentious in some
You'd
way.
need to bring
Which
in a
actually
fourth
that sounds
member, I
quite
think.
pretentious in its own right, thinking about it.
Try out the tone now.
We need
Funnily
some
enough, I brought it up before, like press releases. It did make me laugh rather. I always like to bring up press releases in these things because it makes me laugh. But like you guys were described as the vanguard of the UK's math and progressive rock scenes, and you don't
Who
see
who
vanguard about much anymore.
who
Um,
described us as that, Andy?
that's just in your press release. It
Oh,
just
is
says
it?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Is that
So
don't know if it
in
might be
our
Josie, I'm not
oh,
sure.
right, in our current one? Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
Vanguard. I
yeah.
love that.
that shows how much attention you've been paying, Greg.
I pay very little attention to anything these days.
I'm not even sure what is a Vanguard. Like,
I think it's
Isn't it?
is it
Isn't it
not
an old Honda?
that's yeah,
That's a joke. Sorry.
discontinued in the early 2000s.
it sounds more British Leyland to me. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin Vanguard.
Yeah, they're Alpha Male Tea Party are a British Leyland car from the late 90s. No, it's something like, they are the very much the epitome of this scene. I think that's what it means. But yeah, it's very much press release lingo, and clearly from both of your reactions, it wasn't something that came out of your mouth. Is there anything like cringy in that respect that you've heard or read in your own press releases or elsewhere that have made you smile?
Well, I seem to remember our first press release that we did. I don't even think we can call it a press release. Do you remember the one that we did, Tom? We did it in my old house, and we just basically written it in Comic Sans.
Yes.
I can't really
We,
remember what it was, but it was fairly atrocious.
we sent that to Jack at Alcopop with a curly whirly, and he loved it. He actually like posted a picture of it and was just like, "This is how you do a press release." And it was just like, I think we are an band called Alpha Male Tea Party. Here is some music what we made or some bullshit like that. And back in the hubris of youth, and you know what, it got it. He didn't sign us, but it got us a little bit of attention, and then BSM signed us not too long after that. So
Well, it must have worked then. It must have worked.
we've done something.
I
I
take it all
think
back. I take it all back.
one thing about press releases that I always find really funny, particularly with us, is that I remember reading press releases in, let's say, 2014, which were like, we're like new kids on the block or some shit like that, like fresh new whatever. And then when Health came out, we were already like stalwarts. It was like 3 years later, we released another record, and it's like, oh, we're not new anymore. We're actually like established, and now we're the vanguard now.
I think. I mean, I'd probably categorize
Bombardiers,
us as veterans. I think we are now.
veterans.
We're the vets of math
I
rock.
mean, we've been going long enough now, haven't we? Was it 16 years this year, isn't it?
Blimmin'
Definitely.
heck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Should
only
probably,
imagine what you're going to be called in 2030.
who knows? The decrepit, dilapidated.
Look at that.
So, new record. It was recorded in part in at Middle Farm Studios, rather. How was it, Greg, celebrating a birthday during all that?
I've still got the video that I think Mark recorded of us when I got presented with a cake. That's one of my favorite bits of band history ever. I was yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was great. And like, to be honest, like it was probably for the best that Middle Farm is near no pubs whatsoever. We once we tracked the drums and the bass was all done and dusted. Me and Ben walked probably a couple of miles to the nearest pub across unpaved roads and all kinds of mad stuff, and had a skinful and came back, and Tom was still tracking Andy.
Yeah, you bastard. I sat there for the whole week listening and attentively watching you two do your thing, and then as soon as you were both done, we were like, fuck it, we're going to the pub then.
So what was the question again?
No, it
Okay.
was just, in that sort of scenario, it didn't look it, but I imagine, these moments can be hectic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I imagine celebrating a birthday when everyone's at each other's throats could be a nightmare. But it looked very wholesome this time around. The three of you in terms of the band, and whoever else was there recording it, it looked very wholesome with the cooking and the red
Yeah.
wine and the aforementioned cake. It looked like a
Oh,
lovely time.
yeah, it was. It was so nice. I mean, speaking from like a personal perspective, like it was probably the least stressed I've been recording. I don't know why, but it was probably, the surroundings and different elements or whatever. But it was probably the most enjoyment I've had ever recording. That's probably the same for Tom and Ben, I imagine.
As much as it pains me to say it, given that I've produced everything up to this point, yeah, it was probably the most like it's absolutely my favorite thing we've done as a band was go to Middle Farm for those that week. If we could have been there for like a whole month, I'd have been absolutely delighted. Like
Yeah,
it was one of those experiences that was like this is what being a proper band is supposed to be. Being together, enjoying each other's company, and just making great
yeah,
records. Like my absolute favorite thing was just sitting on the sofa, not having to worry about fucking gain structures or polar patterns on microphones, but just being able to sit there and just listen to these two like absolutely smashing it and just like loving every second of it. It was just ace, and that studio is unbelievable as well. Like really, really inspiring, and it's kind of got that experience. And I've just done a session up in a studio called Black Bay up on the Isle of Lewis, which is like super like middle of nowhere kind of thing. And both those experiences have got me going, I really want this for myself. Like I want to have a residential like proper out in the sticks kind of beautiful country environment, because honestly being creative in those environments it's so much easier and it's so much more focusing and just
hmm
it was just lovely. It was so nice. And like the like I don't think we're short of brotherly love for each other, are we, Greg? But like during that week it was definitely at a fever
yeah,
pitch, let's say.
yeah, yeah.
No funny
Absolutely.
business though.
No, there was no funny business at all. And even like having Mark on board, like Mark definitely felt like the a very integral, almost like the fourth member of the band during that week. He was it felt like we've been working with him for years, really. It
Mm,
was we were
yeah.
just totally comfortable with him, and yeah, just a great experience all
Yeah.
around.
He's a very easy man to trust, is Mark, as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because he's just very chilled and like clearly knows what he's doing. Like, you're just in good hands with him, and
yeah.
that's great. That's what we needed.
There will be at some point for those for all the fans who are out there listening, there will be maybe a video documentary released of that recording session.
Well,
Mm,
you know, Greg, that the internet is always hungry for content. So the sooner you can get that done, the better.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to do it in the most artistic way, really, because sorry, Ben, if you're listening, but like most of the videos that Ben's giving me are like 600 by 400 pixels. So, so I'm just trying to
Looks
like,
like the first Tomb Raider game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, most of it is of you and Ben, which is yeah, which is completely fine. But I think the only stuff of me is like ultra low res. But I
through
might just
through the window.
yeah, basically yeah. So yeah, I'll probably put something together about that. To be honest, there is some really the sheep episode is probably the best, gonna be the best bit of it.
That is the good bit. Yeah, I like that bit.
Look
You'll
out for
have
the
to
sheep.
you'll have to wait and see what that means, Andy.
Can you not let fans in on the sheep content? Because this will be going out at some point, hopefully October, but you
I
never
mean,
know if it's
what?
out already by then.
Why
Definitely not.
not?
No,
So,
no,
Greg saying no. Okay,
no,
sorry.
definitely not. No, it's
It's
yeah,
it's
secret.
top secret. Apparently, I didn't know it was top secret. I'm pretty sure it is already on our Instagram as well.
Yeah, it might be actually. In fact, to be honest, to be honest, half of the video will be on Instagram.
Already, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, right. But this is another thing. Like, this is another thing that we, as a band, have noticed changing. Is that we have never been overly concerned with creating or capturing content. We don't, like when I produce bands now, I do see bands bringing cameras in a lot more, putting a camera up in the live room, putting a camera up in the control room, just sort of capturing stuff. We have historically been quite bad at that. I think we did a bit of it. Like, there's a couple of like tour documentaries that we did in the early days,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, that sort of constant desire to have stuff to show people, we're not good at, and we're not good at it because it's just not that fun,
It's
or
very
at least it's not the capturing of those moments isn't fun, but it's the what you have to do with it at the end of it. But like Josie is constantly trying to get us to like do more stuff, and we do try, but whenever like we put the camera on in the practice room or something, we're just like, what the fuck?
what
What
do we do?
what
Yeah.
what do we do? What do you want from us? Like what?
Ben,
And like, don't
Ben,
want to see those shit TikTok videos
yeah.
that all the kids are doing when they go, "Oh, when you bring your mates round and you practice on in ears and then
Ben is very good at
fuck off."
content though. I'd
He
like,
is much better. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
it's
he's
content
the
master.
he's the content master. Absolutely. I just, yeah, fucking someone points a camera at me. I'm just like, oh no, get it off me.
You can always tell when Ben can't be bothered though, because he'll just sort of huff and puff his way through something, and that's quite funny. Which is basically all the time. I did really like the little video that he did after Battle Crab came out, where he talked about that song and all that. And I thought about doing one for one of the other songs, and then just went, nah, no, I don't want to do that. Maybe I will do something like that.
Do a
Uh,
playthrough.
no, I'll never. I'm too shit at guitar, Greg, to do that. I've had my fingers burnt with that in the past. Anyway, I've tried to do playthroughs, and people have just like sat there in the comments telling me how crap I am at playing my own riffs.
Do you do realize there's a more economical way of playing that, Tom? There's
Oh,
There's nothing
always
like
some
having a
fucking
fan base like that.
I know.
oh
God bless
yes.
the internet. Fabulous stuff.
Do you have that at shows with the people who race to the front of the stage to look at the pedal boards and all the rest of it?
A little bit, but they're always really nice. Like they're
That's
always like
good.
the ones that want to do that are the ones that are like absolutely love our band, and that's always like delightful. Like I think we've not had the sort of pedal gazing thing
I
as a
think
phenomenon doesn't seem to happen quite as much as it used to.
I don't know what I don't know whether it's because it's the kind of standard of gig we do now, but I do remember like back in the early days when we were playing in squats, there will be people just kind of stood around your pedal board, just kind of watching what you do with your feet.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it was
yeah. Good times.
good
The
times.
thing is, like, my pedal was not actually changed for about 10 years, so it wouldn't be that exciting to people. Which I think is quite unusual, but I'm quite happy with the fact that I've like broadly settled on things, and I keep going, maybe I should mix things up a little bit, but then I just feel like I'll be doing it for the sake of it rather than because I really feel like I want to change something.
I don't know who it was that we were watching, but we saw a gig in Leeds and Richard Lee from Blackfish and you and I,
Yeah.
he was watching in like amazement and shaking his head because the bass player had like 100 pedals. And he was like, I've only got one. And he just seemed really like, he just seemed really like, crestfallen. He was like, oh, I didn't realize you could have more than one
Loads.
bass pedal. Yeah,
It,
loads.
there's a bit of a shift happening though in that sense now, which is a sort of not a rant I'll get into necessarily, but a lot of people are going down the digital route with stuff now, which means that loads of people have just got multi effects unit things. And so the whole like elaborate, mad, janky pedalboard thing is becoming less and less common because a lot of people are stopping using amps as well. Like you'll loads of bands are just like going straight to PA, which is just makes me feel cold and
Yeah.
a bit sweaty and uncomfortable. But like that's so that whole like Gearfest thing, it's sort of dying off a little bit now because I've had people asking me at shows like, "Oh, would you ever go digital?" Like, no, of course I fucking wouldn't. Why would I do that? It's a terrible idea. I like carrying 30 kilograms worth of amplifiers around with me. Thanks very much.
Love those load-ins.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of and you and I and Blackfish, so Battle Crab vocally, I think Ben has got very much that sort of vocal style. The new record itself is packed with vocals, and whilst you have featured vocals before, it's a lot more prominent now.
Mhm.
Was there much hesitation from yourself and Ben, and possibly you, Greg, if you were involved as well, in, putting vocals on a record? And how conscious was that? Was it something you've wanted to do for a while, or was it a case of, just saying, should we do vocals on this one, or?
I want to hear from Greg on this subject because I think it was a bit harder to sell it to you initially.
I don't know. I mean, I was always kind of on board with it. I'm the type of person who probably can't envisage and realize like the outcome of it and how much of a better band we are with it. I wouldn't say I'm a pessimist, but it is quite a bit of a pessimistic kind of outlook on it. Personally, I'd had a lot of trust in in Tom and Ben as musicians to be able to just pull something like brilliant out of the bag and make it work really. I think Tom will be able to embellish on it in better detail, seeing as he was the one who kind of wrote the big chunk of the vocals and melodies and such like. But I mean, I didn't have much, if I had a very, very small kind of input on that side of it, maybe just a couple of lyrics here and there and song titles and whatnot. So, and I think personally, I didn't want to kind of step on their toes really as on the in the creative process because at the end of the day it wasn't really me who was going to be singing it. Like I can sing, I have sung
He
in
needs to
like
do
a
it more.
but in if it was to do it on a record then I'll probably be encouraged to do it live and I just have to concentrate on playing the drums in time rather than like singing at the same time. And there was a couple of instances in the studio, Tom, where me and you were kind of at each other's throats a little bit because if I wasn't feeling something and you weren't feeling something, and just in the end, I just had to kind of just back away from it and just let you and Ben just look after it.
Mm.
And what came out in the end was just absolutely brilliant. And I think the best thing about the outcome of it is we've almost got like vocally, we've got like the yin to the yang. You've got Ben's aggressive, kind of not screamy, but he can belt it out. I can't really just describe what he does that well. And you've got Tom's voice, which is obviously much higher register and much softer on the ear, really. Do you know what I mean? Which is a nice kind of juxta. I can't get my words out. Juxtaposition. Fucking say that. Do you know what I mean? It contrasts nice with the heavier kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? The heavier kind of layering. Yeah, go on, Tom. You can
Yeah,
probably.
so I think the main thing with it was that when we made the decision that we were going to do the vocals, which is something we've talked about for a very, very long time. Like we nearly did it as far back as Droids. Like we did talk about it for Droids, but again, it was one of those where the album just came out the way it came out, and we were just like, well, let's just run with this. I still think there's probably a few tunes on Droids where we probably could have put more vocals on, but we but
Yeah,
we didn't.
totally.
Health, I think, was a bit. I think we kind of like we talked about the vocal thing for Health, but actually when we started writing that one, I think that one out of all of the records, there's probably less space for vocals than any of them really. That one's like a bit all over the shop. Maybe a couple of tunes that might have been removed. But anyway, one of the things that we were really clear on that we didn't want to do, if we were going to do vocals, we wanted them to be proper. We wanted them to be like, this is an album with vocals on it. This isn't like we are an instrumental band that we've put some vocal layers on. We wanted this album to be this is an album of songs and we are singing. So we wrote the songs accordingly. We didn't want to compromise what the band was too much in terms of how complex the music was or how much power or energy there was in what we were doing, but we wanted to make sure that vocals could work. Crucially, we also needed to be able to sing and bloody play them live, which is something that I've been very, very anxious about
Mhm.
because Ben's actually quite experienced with that. And that's the daft thing about our band is like the lack of vocals has never been about whether any of us can or can't sing. We've all kind of got a background of doing it. Ben probably more so than any of us. Ben's been in bands as a singer before. He was like one of the main kind of vocal elements of his old band Falls, but he also like sings in like wedding bands and does all sorts of stuff. So singing isn't like it's not like a completely new art form to any of us really, but we were I think kind of mindful of a few things that we didn't want to just keep making the same record in a circle. We felt that we had sort of reached a bit of a ceiling with what we were doing instrumentally, and not just in terms of what we were doing creatively with that, but like where we could go as a band, because we've played the same festivals loads of times. We love them. That's not meant to be a disparaging remark at all. We've played Art Tangent, can't even count how many times we've played that festival, and it's always amazing. We adore it, but we want and need to grow, and we need to move somewhere else. I think, or not go somewhere else entirely, but we want to be able to experience some new things with a band. Like that's always been for me like one of the best things about being in a band is experiencing new things. And I get really like itchy if we start to feel like we're in a cycle and we're not really growing or moving anywhere. It's why I get itchy about statistics and shit like that, which I wish I didn't, but I do. So
You've sorry, I mean, you've always said that we've had a bit of a glass ceiling creatively, haven't we? And
I think we
I
have,
think,
yeah.
yeah, and I think kind of the addition of vocals. I mean, you can see it now. It has. I don't want to say it's opened us up to a new audience, but it hasn't really. But it's just kind of elevated us, a little, to 20% to
Yeah.
kind of,
I think people are engaging with us that have never engaged with us before, and I do think
yeah,
that part of that is because of the vocals. And again, like part of that is as well because we wanted to do it properly. We wanted to have melodies, things. People at Art Tangent this year were singing stuff back to us already, and
yeah,
that was
Wow.
amazing. Like such a beautiful feeling. I could see like there was a lad on the front row when we were playing "Terrible Day to Have Eyes." He was just absolutely belting it back, and I was just like, "That's why we're doing this."
yeah.
Is to get that level of like relationship with an audience.
Fair,
And
fair play to him, like learning it so quick as
I
well.
know, yeah, yeah, because it had only been out about what, like a week and a half or something at that
Yeah,
point. It
yeah.
hadn't been out for very long. So yeah, it's been a funny journey, like because yeah, we recorded the album in like May 2024 in terms of like the core stuff. So when we went into Middle Farm, with the exception of one song, which is probably just Hungry, we had no vocals written at all, nothing. Like not even a like an iota of an idea. We just knew that we were going to do it. So we'd written the framework, the instrumental stuff with that idea in mind. And actually, I think that was really good for the melodies because I think one thing that and I don't think I'll ever be able to do this in the way that a singer songwriter can, where they'll just have a guitar and like start singing a melody along to what they're playing. I'll just end up singing the riff that I'm playing. So I needed to disconnect those two elements in order to actually come up with some melodies that were both complementary but also different to what all the guitars were doing. And there are moments where like the vocals like weave in and out of each other because obviously the guitar parts and the bass parts and everything they're still fairly complex. So if you have like a million and one different creative ideas all happening at once, then it actually becomes quite a difficult listen. So the idea is that the vocals they interact with the instrumental stuff like really, really clearly, but they're still a lead vocal, and that's kind of the whole basis of what we were trying to do was right. Okay, well, where's the natural melody in the stuff that we've actually written, and then just use the vocal to just bring that out a little bit more, and that's kind of how it's worked out. I think anyway. I hope. Who
You
knows?
say, Greg, that, it's added a different dynamic to the band as well. And then Tom, this person who was in the front row of Art Tangent, was absolutely buzzing and singing the lyrics. You did your tour last year and some of the material was played. Was it quite nice, number one, having that material in your back pocket for people to hear firsthand? Because I don't think the album was possibly announced at that point. And was it also great in the fact that people were reacting and the reaction seems to have been so positive?
Yeah, I mean, like I think we might have even had maybe one or two others that we probably could have played, but I think we were just a little bit like, no, we'll just give them one little drop of what's to come. Do you know what I mean? And like a little taste there. And yeah, like especially like us, we played Battle Crab on the last tour, which is probably the heaviest tune on the record, maybe, maybe alongside Hostess, maybe. Yeah, and it was totally incredible, really. It kind of gave us, a little sign that okay, cool, well, everything's going to be okay, really. When it's not like, we've played something completely alien to people and people won't like and stuff. It was just a kind of just a little nod to say we're on the right track creatively.
Yeah, I mean the reaction to the vocals at Art Tangent were really good as well, and it felt genuine as well. It didn't feel like people going, "Oh yeah, I like the vocals." It felt like people were like, "Oh fuck,"
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's really good, which is again like really nice because it could have not been that.
Yeah,
So
easily.
there.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, Greg. The song that you mentioned, I'm guessing that's the opener. And a belting way to open the record, but it seems to, you think at 1 minute it's a hardcore song with your style on top of it. And then it seems to just shift into like almost like a prog style song.
Yeah.
So, it is like, it's chucking you about. And yeah, it must be
There is, yeah, I
gratifying that
mean,
people are,
so gone.
it must be gratifying that people are on board with the whole thing.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments in the record where there is kind of a bit of like a 180, well, not even a 180 shift, like a 90-degree shift, like stylistically. There's a tune on the first tune of the second side, just called I'm operating on Feel Alone in brackets. I mean that idea, that song just kind of started off as a bit of a weird janky like King Crimson ripoff, like an elephant talk kind of thing, and then it just kind of just went really fucking typical alpha male tea party kind of big twatter of a tune, if I can say that. And then kind of halfway it just kind of drops into this kind of like, I don't even how I can say, kind of like this kind of like heroin induced kind of like dragging this progressive kind of doomy thing. And then yeah, I mean there's quite a few little bits on the record that kind of get you thinking and give you a little surprise. I think the last tune on the record, "All Become One When the Sun Comes to Earth," is probably my favorite one for that, because I think it's probably the best written tune on there, I'd say.
Oh yeah, you reckon?
Well, no, as far as like songwriting's concerned, really, the way it's put together. I remember saying to you a while back, Tom, that it is so well written.
It's funny that
The
you
way the,
say
the way it
that.
flows.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm glad that you feel that way because that's the song when do you remember when we were working on the vocals for that tune, and that's
Yeah,
that's the song where me and Greg sort of we had a bit of a friction moment because like I couldn't get any ideas to stick, and it was kind of the first time that me and Greg were sort of like working together on vocals, and we realized fairly quickly that it just didn't really work that well, did it?
no, no, not at all. And that was when I went, you know what, this song's too good for me to fucking get in the way, so I'm gonna go home.
But vocally, it's actually really simple that song. But like, I just I do love where that song takes you and where it goes and things like that. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, Hostess Imperial, which is the opener, is a really weird and interesting song because if we go back to talking about Andy Farrow at NMC, that's the song that got him really interested in us, and we played that in London before our Tangent as an Tangent warm up, and that one went down like super well. Even though we actually butchered it, we com-
yeah.
we
I fucked up the middle, didn't I? But I'm gonna
um
completely blame a monitoring on that one. Okay.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, that's fine. Um, but like we had people coming up to us like saying like, "What was that song?" Like that was a really really great song. And when we finished writing that one, I was like, "I'm not sure about that one. It's a bit weird." But actually, yeah, it's really grown on me. It's one of my favorites on the record now.
It's definitely one. It's a bit of a fucker to play though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bugger.
There's been quite a few like false starts when we try to play it live, like, but we've got there. I think the last few
We have
times
got
we've
there.
played it,
We'll be all
it's in the pocket now. But we've obviously we've got to play. Well, not letting any cats out of bags here, but we are going to be playing it on the new tour, and it was just like, oh God,
right.
no, I don't want this to be the shit one.
the undoing of you. I mean, to be fair, from a layman, none of it sounds particularly easy to play. So it's interesting to hear that, Greg. But
I just, I just,
appreciate.
I just, I just ham fist me way through songs, mate. You know.
Chat shit.
So I do want you to get on with the rest of your evening. So to finish up, I thought it was interesting. I looked at this, and the first time we interviewed you was 12 years ago, and we were cramped in the stairwell of Crack Gallery in Manchester.
Oh
And
shit. That's a long
uh,
time
uh,
ago.
yeah, and I think Ben had only just come on board, and we were trying to speak in the hallway of this cramped area, and a band was sound checking in the other room. We couldn't wait, for another time. But yeah, it's Alpha Male was 4 years before that, from what you said earlier, by the sounds of it. And it doesn't seem like, there's any lag at all. You seem to be, just as much bosom buddies as ever. So it must be nice to be in, year 16 and we're sitting across from you and doing this and just yeah, things in Alpha Male Tea Party are only, blossoming so much still. It must be nice to be in this position.
Better late than never.
I just think like that's part of why we've been able to be a band for as long as we have. Like, because like I think we've long sort of made peace with the fact that we're not going to be a stadium rock band or something. Like the main reason we do it is because we enjoy each other's company and we love being creative together. And that's kind of what it's about really, and sort of always kind of has been. I think if we didn't have the friendship that we have between us, there's no way we'd still be a band like this.
No.
Like the things that we've sort of, I'd say, endured. It's not as bad as all that, but there are times and like tours and shows that we've played where you'd come away from that and think like that could break a band up. Experiences we've been through where you go, but because we are basically brothers, we sort of we're just going to be here forever. Like I imagine we'll take like little breaks here and there, like as it seems like we've done the last 5 years. But we know what we're doing. We know that we're still like continuing to do what we do. But yeah, I think it's a vital part of what makes Alpha Male Tea Party tick and what it is really.
Speaking of interviews, Andy, I was remembering. Do you remember I forget which arc tangent it was?
Squat
Squat
thrusting into the heart of the
into the
sun.
heart of the sun.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
20
Aspel,
was that 2017, I think?
maybe, yeah. Nothing hits you finer like a can of Aspel
Aspel's,
cider or whatever it was.
that
That
Yeah,
never
I
was
did.
mean,
foolishness. This has been quite sensible by comparison to that one.
I think the elephant in the room is the lack of Ben, isn't it, really? But
Probably.
as we move into our podcast phase, things have got to get serious, I suppose. But yeah, it's always been a pleasure interviewing you over the years. And for some reason, I think we were banging on about Class A's the first time we interviewed you. Not that we were actually,
Is this
none
a
of us was
family show,
doing
by
it.
the way?
It's not, thankfully. But yeah, so it's always been good to have the crack. Wrong word. But yeah, just gutting that Front Magazine doesn't exist anymore.
I know. I
You've got to
know.
rely on stuff like
Me
this.
too. Yeah, it was probably the best of the lad mags, really. It's not very acceptable these days, is it? But
Right, Grandad. That's the one and only copy of Front Magazine I ever bought. And it is quite strange, like sort of flicking through the magazine past loads of topless women and then seeing your own face in the same situation.
sandwiched between breasts.
Yeah. It's a strange ideal.
I mean, 2030, next record, there's a photo shoot there, I'm sure.
Maybe that's the album title.
Sandwich between breasts.
Sandwich between breasts. Oh, jolly good.